Hello, my name is Keshwani. That's Keshwani, Keshwani. We are here because we want to prepare ourselves for the math portion of the GRE. We have been solving math problems out of this book here, the official guide to the GRE, the revised general test. If you do not own this book already, purchase one immediately. The problem that I'm about to solve is the one that you're going to find on page number 118. Today is our day number 10. Let's take a look at it. At the bottom of page 110, we are given a graph and we are asked this question. Which of the given graphs will intersect with f of x equals to absolute 2x plus 4. Well, in order to understand the question, we have to understand in this problem the concept of slope. That is the fundamental, that is the key to the solution to this problem. Let's first look at what this graph actually looks like. So we're going to plot this graph. Here's our x and here's our f of x, which is same as y. This is how you read it. This is read as f of x, which is the value of y. When someone says f of x, they are asking you what is the value of y when x assumes certain value. For example, here in this case, when x is 0, 2 times 0 is 0 plus 4, so y is positive 4, which tells us that when x is 0, y is positive 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So the story begins from here. What happens when x equals 1? When x equals 1, now in this case it doesn't matter whether it is positive 1 or negative 1 because of the fact that it has an absolute value. So whether x is positive 1 or negative 1, for example, if x were negative 1 times 2 would have been negative 2, but because of the fact that we have absolute value, the negative 2 turns into positive 2. So it doesn't matter whether it's a positive 1 or negative 1, this is how we write it. Positive 1 or negative 1, this is how we write it. Positive or negative 1. Whether x is positive 1 or negative 1, 2 times positive or negative 1 is negative, positive 2 or negative 2, absolute value is 2, 2 plus 4 is 6, positive 6 that is. So if x is positive 1, the y is 6, which is right here, this was our 4, 5, 6, x is 1 right here, and when x is negative 1, it assumes the same value, right here. Right here. Let's see what happens when x equals positive or negative 2. When x is positive or negative 2, 2 times 2 is 4, either positive 4 or negative 4, it doesn't matter because the absolute value is going to be positive 4. 4 plus 4 is 8. So when x is 2, positive 2 or negative 2, y we see is 4. So here we have 7 and 8. Voilà. That is the shape that this graph is going to assume. I'm going to erase this part right next to it so that you can see it clearly. We don't need this part right here. And now we have the shape of the graph that they're giving us. Right there. And then here we have a point, here we have a point here, and here we have another one. So that's the other one. Now the reason I put this portion in the dotted in a dotted fashion is because you will see in a sec, even though they give you as a solid line, the reason I put this negative portion in a dotted fashion is because you will see in a second that that part plays no role, and I'll tell you in about 2 or 3 minutes why it plays no role as we begin to look at the answer choices. The very first thing we need to understand is the fact that the slope of this line is 2. We just saw it. What does slope measure? Let's talk about it for a second. I'm going to erase all of this thing now. We don't need the question. We already plotted the graph. Now, we didn't actually have to plot the graph in the way that I just did, because the graph is given to us. But I want to make sure I understand where the graph came from. So we plotted it right there. So again, when x is 0, 2 times 0 is 0, 0, 2 times 0 is 0, 0 plus 4 is 4, so y is positive 4. When x is positive 1 or negative 1, 2 times 1 is 2, plus 4 is 6, so y is positive 6. When x is 1, y is 6 right here. Or when x is negative 1, y is 6 here. When x is 2, positive 2 or negative 2, 2 times 2 is 4, plus 4 is 8, right there. So that's our graph. Let's talk about the concept of slope. Slope of this line is 2. Slope. What does slope measure? What does slope measure? It's a very simple, straightforward question, and what I'm looking for is not a geeky answer, not a nerdy answer, not an academic answer, not a mathematical answer, but I'm looking for an intuitive answer, an answer that I can feel it in my guts. Can you tell me intuitively what is it that slope tells us? When one talks about slope of a line, what is it that one is talking about? What does slope measure? What is slope? Slope measures slope tells us rather, slope measures or tells us, slope tells us how steep the line is. Slope measures how steep the line is. Slope measures the steepness of a line. It measures the steepness of a line. For example, let's look at answer choice C they gave us. Answer choice C, 2x minus 1. So here we have y equals to what they're calling g of x equals 2x minus 1. 2x minus 2 rather. 2x minus 2. This is answer choice C. What we'll find is that every time x changes by 1 unit, the value of the y, which is the g of x, the value of the y will go up by 2 units. Look, when x is 0, here in this case, when x is 0 here, 0 times 2 is 0 minus 2. So when x is 0, y is negative 2. What happens when x goes from 0 to 1? When x is 1, 2 times 1 is 2, minus 2 is 0. You see the value of the y went from negative 2 to 0. When x is 1, y is 0. You see the value of y went up by 2. If x equals 2, 2 times 2 is 4, 4 minus 2 would be 2. You see it went from, this is a 0, it went from 0 to positive 2. So that's what this tells us. 2x tells us that if you were to increase x by 1 unit, this quantity will go up by 2 units because it's being multiplied by 2. Had it been 3x, the slope would have been 3. That part, that coefficient of x tells us the slope. So the slope of this line is 2. If we were to plot this line, let's do it here. Oh, we have it right here. So when x is 2, y is positive 2. Let's plot this line. We're going to plot this answer choice C, and I'm going to do it in a different color so you can see what happens here. Okay, watch what happens. When x is 0, which is right here along the y-axis, y is negative 2. So it begins apparently from here. It begins from here, right here. When x is 1, y is 0. When x is 1, y is 0. You see it goes up by 2 units. From here it goes 1, 2. When x is 1, y is 0. That's our second point. When x is 2, y is 2. when x is 2, y goes up to 2. What do you notice? What we notice here is that this line here that we just plotted has the exact same slope at that portion over there. I'm going to put this portion in a different color so we can talk about it here. The original graph has a slope of 2. This graph has a slope of 2. And it starts from the bottom here, -2. It starts with a -2. When x is 0, this is -2. Before, in the original graph, when x was 0, the y value was 4. So they start at a different point, but these two lines are parallel. If you have two parallel lines, what happens? Here's a line here that goes like this. Here's a line that goes like this. They are parallel to each other. What does it mean when you have parallel line? Parallel line means they will never ever interact. They will never ever intersect. That's what it means for two lines to be parallel. They are parallel, they will not intersect. Answer choice C is not the answer, because the question here was which of these 5 answer choices that are given to us will intersect with the original graph. C will not intersect because it has a slope of 2. Let's look at answer choice D. D, let me put it in a green color so this is more different than the blue one. D says 2x plus 3. 2x plus 3. 2x plus 3, again, when x is 0, y is going to be 3. 2 times 0 is 0 and plus 3, y is 3. When x is 0, which is along y-axis, y is 3. 1, 2, 3. It begins from here. But what happens? It has the exact same slope. It goes up by 2 units. Every time x changes by 1, y is going to change by 2. It is the exact same line as this line, except it has been shifted up by 4 units. Instead of having the y intercept of -2, it has a y-intercept of +3. It has been moved up by 5 units, not 4 units. I was wrong. 2 here and 3 here. It starts out 5 units higher. It starts out with, instead of -2, it starts out at +3, but the slope is the same. You see 2x right here. 2x and 2x. They both have the same slope. So if we were to draw the line, this line is going to look like this. Let's look at what happens when x is -1. When x is -1, 2 times -1 is -1 times 2 is -2 plus a 3. A -2 and 3 is +1. So when x is -1, y is 1. When x is -2 times 2 is -4 plus a 3 is -1. So when x is 2, it's right here, -1, right here, this point. This is your line. Watch what happens. I have to be very careful. Right there. I didn't do a very good job because on the whiteboard it's kind of slippery, so your hand slips. But again, this line that you see here, let's call it line LD, L with a subscript D, D for the answer choice D. Line LD is also parallel to this portion here, the blue portion, because it has the same slope. C and D will never intersect with the original graph that is given to us. Now the reason why I put this thing in a dotted part originally to start out with is because I knew that this part is going up here, the rest of the stuff, the action is going to take place here. There is not going to be any intersection of any of these answer choices with that part. All the action that we're going to see is going to be here in the first quadrant. So C is wrong. Answer choice C has a slope of 2, which is the same slope as the original thing that is given to us. This has a slope of 2. That is not going to intersect. The answer is either A, C is gone, D is gone. The answer is either A, B, or E. We'll look at all of these one by one, and we'll see what happens. Okay? So give me some time. Give me some time and we'll get to it eventually. Let's look at A. I need the room. I'm taking a lot of time in these questions because if you understand this concept, then it's a very straightforward. You don't need to watch this video, obviously. But for those of you who have trouble understanding the concept of slow and what the question is asking, taking your time and understanding it, you'll find it helpful. Now we're going to look at answer choice A, B, and E. In order to do A, B, and E, I'm going to erase this line here, so that we don't have too much going on. They are gone. That was answer choice D. This was answer choice C, I believe. It's gone. We don't need it. Let's look at what A gives us. A tells us g of x equals x minus 2. G of x equals x minus 2. This is answer choice A. Now watch what happens. When x is 0, that's how we write it. You put a 0 for the x here and replace x with a 0. Y is going to be negative 2. This is your y value. This is your y value. G of x is y. When we talk about g of x, that's your y value. So when x is 0, y is negative 2. So it starts out here. When x is 0, y is negative 2. It starts out here. But then what happens? Every time x is going to go up by 1, y is going to go up by 1. So when x is 1, the value of the y is just going to go up by 1 because instead of 0 we have 1 now. Nothing else has changed. This is still negative 2. So it now is 1 minus 2 is negative 1. So when x is 1, y is negative 1. It's right here. G of 2 we just replaced x with 2. 2 minus 2 is 0. So when x is 2, y is 0. You see, this is the line here. The line is here. And it's flatter. That line is a flat line. It has a slope of 1. Slope of 1. A line that has a slope of 1. I'm going to show you two lines here. Here's a line, steeper line here. This ruler, pretend that this has a slope of 1. Okay? Pretend this ruler that I'm holding here has a slope of 2, rather. This right here. A slope of 2. And this pencil that I'm holding in my hand has a slope of 1. As they go farther and farther out in x, they will never intersect with each other. They will going to go farther apart. They're going to go farther apart because one is steeper, the one is slanted. As we go out further, they're going to go farther apart. They will never intersect, not interact, I said it again. They will never intersect with each other. The only chance that they would have had, this is a hypothetical statement, is if this line were to continue down here, and this line were to continue down here, then over here at the end, they would have intersected right here. But we have taken out that scenario because of the fact that the original equation that they give us has the absolute value. Because of the fact that 2x is an absolute sign, everything goes up there again. Do you understand? That's all. So a slope of line 1, a line with slope of 1, will never catch up with a line that has a slope of 2. As a matter of fact, they will go farther and farther apart as x increases. So A is wrong. It has a slope of 1. A has a slope of 1. It will never catch up with B. It will go farther and farther apart. A is wrong. Let's take a look at B. What do you see in B? What do you suppose is the slope of B? Slope of B is x plus 3. G of x equals x plus 3. Again, you see every time x goes up by 1, the y will go up by 1. It also has a slope of 1. Slope is the coefficient of x, which is 1x here. Exact same thing as here, except the starting point is different. Instead of when x is 0, this one starts with positive 3, right here. 1, 2, 3, it starts here. It's going to start here, and when x is 1, this is going to go up by 1. When x is 2, it's going to go up by another 1. Right here is a line. Let me put it in a different color so you can see it. this line that we're about to do, this B here, is going to be parallel to A because they have the same slope. Both have the same slope of 1. Line A and line B, let's call it line A, this line A right here, and line B are parallel. But as you can clearly see, the line B here is not going to intersect with the blue line because they have different slope. One is flatter than the other. The original line, this blue line, is steeper. They're going to go farther and farther apart. B is also not the answer. Well, if B is not the answer and A is not the answer, and we crossed out already C and D by the process of elimination, we know that the answer is E. Now what I'm going to do next, if it gets to be too much for you, then of course, as far as the problem is concerned, we are done. But what I'm going to do next is actually show you both graphically and then I'm going to show you algebraically why the answer is E. And again, I need the room so we can erase everything. I'm very curious as to how much time I have taken, so I'm going to get out of frame for a second to look in the back of the camera, see how much I have taken so far. Okay, just give me a second. Listen, I have already taken 22 minutes in this clip. I don't want to keep on going and take another 10 minutes. That will be a half-hour long video. So I'm going to actually continue this into 2 parts. I'm going to make one more video, or maybe a 10 minutes long video, where I'm going to discuss at length the answer choice E, and I'm going to show you both graphically and algebraically as to why the answer choice was E and at what stage these two lines intersect. But in order to understand it thoroughly, we have to take our time. I don't want to do it in a hurry. So as far as we are concerned, as far as the exam is concerned, that is, as far as this problem is concerned, we know now for a fact that the answer has to be E, because the other two lines, again one more time, the answer choice C and D have the same slope as the line that is given to us, so they will be parallel, and the other two answer choices A and B are flatter lines. They have a slope of only 1. A line with a slope of only 1 will never catch up with another line of slope of 2. So the two choices are parallel to the original line that is given to us, and the other two choices are not steep enough. They won't catch up, they won't intersect. The answer is E. In the next video, I'm going to talk only about answer choice E, and I'm going to show you, as I said, the graphical solution and the algebraic solution, and we'll find out exactly where it is that these two lines intersect, the answer choice E and the original graph. But that we'll do it in the next clip, okay? So we'll end up having 2 clips for this problem, which is fine. I'll talk to you tomorrow, okay? Bye now.